I'm excited tonight to have Brenna from Revolutionary Earth, as well as our own Ani and Gus, who have been connected with that. Ani is on the board of directors at Revolutionary Earth, and both Ani and Gus have been connected with their work and volunteering. So glad to have all of you lead tonight. But before we start, I invite you just to take a breath of gratitude for the day and this chance to gather and to learn. And I'll light my chalice here at home. And if you have one nearby, feel free to light it in actuality or in spirit, in your mind. And I have these opening words from Gary Snyder, one of my favorite poems reminding us of our connection to the earth. The rising hills, the slopes of statistics lie before us, the steep climb of everything going up as we go down. In the next century, or the one beyond that, they say, are valleys and pastures. We can meet there in peace if we make it. To climb these coming crests, one word to you and your children. Stay together. Learn the flowers. Go light. I love those closing words. Stay together, learn the flowers, go light. Indeed, that's the work of many of our organizations, including Revolutionary Earth. So I'm going to turn it over to Brenna. Thank you for joining us tonight. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you, Luke. And I feel like I know so much about your congregation from meeting all of the people that have been involved with Revolutionary Earth in the last 2 years, especially Gus and Ani. And I'm looking forward to hearing what their experiences have been of our organization together. I thought I would sort of start by talking about a little bit why I started Revolutionary Earth and how I conceived of it and do conceive of it as a movement. So about 2 years ago, coming up on 2.5, I was a college professor and I was feeling pretty disillusioned with academia, which is easy to do if you know anything about academia. And I was, I was a theology professor, so I was used to asking the big questions. And one of the big questions that had sort of been in the back of my mind, because it's not necessarily a theological question, but more of an existential and an ethical question, was, how am I going to be able to relate to my children as I watch them grow into an adult and they have to face together with me the challenges of climate change? How am I going to look them in the face, and what am I going to say to them about what I did? So I did a fair amount of work on climate change and the theological response to climate change when I was a professor, but I wanted to do something practical, obviously. And so I started asking, what would it look like for an American to address climate change? I know I'm not the first American to try and address it, but I look around at all of the other countries in the world, many of the other countries in the world, and they're addressing climate change in ways that are distinctly part of who they are as a people. Iceland has harnessed the power of their volcanic activity of their island and has moved to 100% renewable geothermal energy. Netherlands has a 10,000-year plan for a 10,000-year flood, and they have a 200-year climate change plan. Bhutan has about over half of their country is now protected from deforestation because they actually wrote it into the Constitution that they could never touch certain parts of their country. So I started thinking about, well, what would it look like for Americans to address climate change? And what I came up with was that we would simultaneously draw on the myths that we are so familiar with about our founding and our country, values like liberty and unity and compassion. But we would also challenge much of what we hold dear as a country. And so this is what I came up with. I came up with an organization that is, in my opinion, a way to fight against the worst tendencies of us Americans. So it's not really a gardening society, if that's what you've heard, and it's technically a nonprofit, but it's much more than that. It's designed to be a movement to destabilize and ultimately to eradicate on some level and rebuild the human economic system of Olmsted County so that it mimics the natural ecosystems around us, which tend toward resilience and equilibrium, and are at odds with the system that we have created for ourselves, which tend toward waste and scarcity. So we are beginning with food, and our strategy is to uncover sources of waste and scarcity in this human ecosystem and transform the ecosystem so that the food sources of all living things in the city improve. And that includes everything from soil organisms to plants and pollinators and people. How do we do that? We have begun in the last 2 years by eliminating an ecological wasteland, which is commonly in our culture perceived as a kind of beautiful thing. It's the growing of perennial ryegrass and the mowing of it that we call the American lawn. I call it a blight. I call it a bother. I call it a desert for pollinators. It is barely trodden on by most humans. And if it is, it's usually regarded with mild disdain for the chore of keeping it close cropped enough to escape the neighbor's judgmental glance. 40 million acres of a lawn in the United States, more than corn and soy put together, useless to pollinators and most animals. Originally grown for sheep and goats, not even used for that anymore. So is it beautiful? Sometimes. I think it's a nice, beautiful thing to see a hillock of grass, a fun place for my kids to roll around. I think at 40 million acres, we've overgrown it a little bit. It's fundamentally, in my opinion, an affectation of the American dream, which is a dream of brutal excess. Let's be honest. So the mission of Revolutionary Earth doesn't sound like it necessarily has anything to do with gardening, because our farm is just one thing, just one of the things that we do. It's the most important thing we do right now, and it's the primary thing that we do. But the ultimate mission of Revolutionary Earth is to empower compassionate people to transform scarcity and waste into an ecosystem. Now, what is an ecosystem and how does it differ from an economy? In an economy, there are winners and losers. In an ecosystem, every organism in the ecosystem cooperates naturally toward equilibrium, which is the state in which every organism within that ecosystem is provided exactly what it needs. Are there brutalities in in natural ecosystems? Of course there are. But there is no such thing as wealth and the hoarding of wealth in nature. This is a particularly human endeavor. So we have resolved to address the issue of greed by addressing its two main products, which are scarcity and greed. These are strange things to exist together. Not having enough and throwing away things that we have decided we don't need. The lawn is a perfect metaphor for this. It is usable land, usable for growing food. And yet we ask farmers in 2 counties in California to grow 90% of our produce, ship it 1,500 miles to us, so that we can throw away 15% of it. In the meantime, that's around the same amount of people in Olmsted County who are food insecure. So this is our mandate from the system around us. This is what we have been enjoined to do by nature. Nature's witness to our inconsistencies and our frailties. So what do we do? What I did do starting in 2019 is I went around Rochester and I asked for lawns. I asked for backyards specifically. And I asked nothing from the homeowner except the chance to smother the grass and create a garden. The first year we created 4 gardens. We tried to create 7, we couldn't do it. We had maybe 12.5 volunteers come out. And, we grew a couple of hundred pounds of food. In July of that year, 2019, we began distributing to 2 households the produce that we gathered every Saturday. By the end of the season, in mid-October, we were distributing to 14 households, about 50 people. Last year in 2020, we ended the year by distributing to about 43 households, over 150 food insecure people, including over 100 children. We tripled the number of yards and gardens that we maintained. We quadrupled the number of volunteers. Also in 2019, we raised $450, which we did by accident. Last year, we raised about $25,000. And that all went into equipping the gardens, very large scale gardens, to produce as much food as we could. This year, our goal is to serve between 65 and 75 families in Rochester and to grow over between 4 and 6 tons of food. At the same time, we are working with a local bakery and a local dairy to distribute, include bread and milk in our produce deliveries. If you, Luke, if you wanted to pull up the website, I could show you some of the values that we have as an organization. If you go to our commitments, you can go to commitments to, now that's me pontificating liberty, compassion, equilibrium. You can scroll down past that. So our commitment to the earth, we don't till. Our conversion of most lawns is process of laying cardboard or some kind of tarp over the grass and smothering it, and then planting right on top of it. We obviously don't use any chemicals, and we aspire to be a negative waste and negative carbon company. Our commitment to our people, that's our commitment to our subscribers. We commit to only 2 people touching our produce, and we commit to all produce being delivered within 24 hours of harvest. Now that doesn't include things like squash, for example, that needs to be cured. We offer the best for the poorest first. That's one of our mottos. We never sell our produce, and we don't distribute leftovers. We have been offered in the past 2 years, many more times than once, leftover food, leftover produce, leftover non-produce items. We don't do it. We just reject it. We're happy to compost leftover produce, but we envision a new era for the poor in our city, such that they're not treated like pigs, which is what happens when you take leftover produce and you send it either to pigs or to low-income people. You can't avoid the comparison there. We curate the resources that we give to our subscribers. So and that will go into our Alliance program, which will roll out in the next few years, which is a demand-based service. So we would not have something like a clothing drive. We would go and look for the one coat that the 6-year-old girl in the one household that needs it needs, and then we would go and get that coat for her. That's an example. And then just wages, if we were ever to pay people, we've already talked about how we would pay them. As of now, though, we are 100% volunteer organization. So that is that is Revolutionary Earth as I see it. But I'm eager to allow Ani and Gus as much time as possible to speak about their experience. So I'm going to pass it over to Ani.
All right. Hi, everyone. First of all, Gus, that was amazing. You hit home with basically everything you were talking about, and good outline of the website. I've read through it about 10 times. I've looked through it about 10 times, but just hearing you talk about, your passion and why you started it was, good to hear, like always. So I was just going to talk about just kind of a little bit more as of like in my perspective. So first of all, how I got involved. You're probably thinking, okay, yeah, great organization, good values, good mission, but like, number one, how do we get involved? And number two, how many people have you gotten involved and what would they do? So how I got involved was actually kind of through Gus, actually more than kind of, mostly from Gus. He talked to my mom and I. My mom is Rachel Bulbulian, and we were donating some leaves. So in the fall, leaves fall, and it was kind of fun to say. In the fall, leaves fall, and our whole backyard was covered in leaves. And Gus told us that Revolutionary Earth was looking for lots of bags of leaves to throw on top of their gardens as kind of like a final wrap up of winter. So we donated about 15 bags of leaves, and I also got about 15 other people to donate their leaves as well. I just kind of, anyone I knew, I was like, hey, you have leaves? I'll come bag them and rake them for you and put them in bags. They're like, sure, yeah, who's going to say no to that? So I ended up getting 15 bags, 15 people, and that was enough, plus a bunch of other people who were involved with that to fill their gardens. After that happened, there was a volunteer event, kind of the last one of the season. And at that point, I was like really, really intrigued with this organization. And I bet you are too after hearing that. But I was just like, oh man, those values are exactly what I have like in my heart right now. And just Chris mentioned, setting a good example or just doing something for his kids. And I'm kind of the kid in this perspective. I am living through climate change, and I'm not saying that any of you guys did something to make it bad, but I think we're all in this together, and especially my generation. I feel like we are really on top of, not on top of climate change, but we're really passionate about climate change, and I really am. And I feel like this organization and these missions, this value really hits home. And I'm like, if I can just do this much to stop the spread, to slow it down, to do something, give to the poorest first, I'm there. As soon as I heard the word environment with what Revolutionary Earth does, I was like, sign me up. So that's kind of why I got involved. And then what I was talking about was there was an event, the last event of the season, and I was like, okay, cool. I need some volunteering hours for school anyway. And I'm like, I don't really know what else is safe during COVID times. And if you're worried about volunteering with Revolutionary Earth with COVID, number one, we have gardens all over Rochester. We have 12 gardens, and we would have like 5 to 10, 15 maximum people per garden, and definitely spread out, masks and everything. So I was like, you know what, Mom, is that okay? And she was like, sure. So I go to volunteer, and before I volunteer, I asked, I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I asked Chris, I was like, I'm going to be coming, how many people are you going to need? And I heard from someone that they need more people. And so I was like, I know a lot of people, like, just people that I barely talk to, people, my friends. So I kind of spread the word. I was like, I'm going to this volunteer event. If you need volunteer hours, please come. They're looking for more people. And what I actually did was I ended up getting the volunteer groups at Mayo involved in that event. So at Mayo High School, there is a volunteer group called Mayo Honor Society. And it's a group of like 50 kids. Okay, yeah, it is all true. Okay, good. So so there's a group about 50 kids. There's also another group about 100 kids that's Key Club. And so I actually got Honor Society kids to show up for our event last fall. And I ended up getting 25 volunteers. And I'm pretty proud of that because that is where my work starts. So that event, we had 25 Mayo kids come. Chris said that it was the most amount of volunteers that they've had for one event ever. So I was really proud of that. And, I just got my friends involved. You should be proud. Thanks. So that's where my work started. So now what I do now is I'm on the board of directors, like someone had mentioned. The board of directors is just a group of, 12, 15 people who just make decisions for our organization, how to move forward, what to do with a certain amount of money, our event schedules and stuff like that. But my passion has been recruiting volunteers and getting people more involved and excited like I am. I am beyond excited for this season. I am so excited. I've been spreading the word to literally everyone I know, whether I've talked to them one time or whether I've talked to them every day. But yeah, I'm super excited. What I've been doing right now is I lead the volunteer circle. So the volunteer circle is a group of, right now we have like 8 to 10 people. And I help lead that circle. And what we do is we recruit volunteers. So all of you guys, if you want to come, please come. I've been talking to school groups. I've been kind of pitching our organization, or as Chris mentioned, our movement. And I've just been trying to get a lot more young people and any age actually involved, just out there doing something. And it kind of reminds you, like, after doing something like this, you just feel that like wave of, I did something good and I want to do it again. And I just hope that I felt that in my first volunteer event. I hope that everyone feels that after they come out as well. So that's a little bit about how I got involved, what it kind of means to me. And my biggest goal right now and my job as in the organization is to really just get people involved and just know the feeling that they're helping the outcome of everyone, the poorest people in Rochester. You don't really think about them that often, but you see them on the streets, you see them, you know, in kind of ragged clothes. You want to do something, but a lot of people don't know how. So this is how. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about my vision. So like I said, this organization really, really hits home. My mom was so excited when I joined this organization. She was like, oh my goodness, this is exciting. This is exactly what I want you to be doing with your life. You're making such a change. She was like, oh my goodness, environmental aspects of lawns are just so stupid. We need to change our backyards. We need to give our lawn to Revolution to make a garden, which we are hoping to do soon. And it's just with her kind of there as my sidekick. It's just been so much fun. I am so glad for this opportunity. And so moving forward, right now we're about to hit, I think, our 3rd season. And number one, I'm so excited. Number two, I hope to be in this organization for a very long time. I have no idea what my life is going to turn out to be. I have no idea what I even want to do with my life later. I don't know what I'm majoring in, but I do know that this is really something that I'm really passionate about, really excited about, and really good at. I'm really good at just communicating with other people and getting them as excited as I am. So I want to continue next 4 or 5 years of my life with this organization. I want to definitely stay in touch with Chris forever and ever because I think he's amazing and so smart. So I really think that this organization is going places. And, you know, from the 1st year to the 3rd year, it has really sprouted, that's in a plant term. It has really sprouted, it has really grown, and I'm just excited for it to keep growing. And then, yeah, it just gives to the people who need it most. So if you're interested, here's what I'll say. So basically, I coordinate volunteers. I work with volunteers, I recruit them, I tell them kind of where to go, what to do. So I'll just leave with this final note. If you are interested in volunteering, normally we would have you check out the website, revolutionaryearth.org, and just click on the volunteer, and then there's a drop down and it's volunteer survey. But please don't fill that out right now because we are currently working on changing it, fixing it, and putting on a new volunteer survey. So instead, the best thing I can think of is to email me, and I will keep a running list of anyone who is interested. So if someone will just type in the chat, I'm on my phone, so it's hard to text and talk at the same time. Thank you. Yeah, so Ani@revolutionaryearth.org. And just go ahead and email me if you're interested at all, and I will go ahead and send you more details. But basically, last thing I want to end with is schedule. So this organization is so good with schedule. I am such a busy person. Tennis, church, school, friends, having a teen life with my friends. It is a lot. And, you know, sick cats who, you know, playing with my cats, playing cards with my family. It's just a lot. And I am very conscientious, if that's the right word, of taking on new things. But with COVID, I've taken on about 10 new different things this year. And I just want to end with this. If you're, you know, you really like the cause, you really want to volunteer, but you just don't have the time, that doesn't matter. You can still do something. You can donate $10, $5, $1. You can call your friend who has more time and just say, hey, I just learned about this thing. Maybe you'd want to do it with your kids someday. So it's really doesn't matter what your schedule is. You can definitely help out no matter what. And if you are also thinking, I got a really busy next month, but I might have like a Saturday or Friday night or Saturday morning free, and maybe that would work, you can still email me because we have events. We're going to have events every weekend and also on weekdays. And so even if you can't commit to like every Saturday or every Friday or every other day volunteering, you can just know that you can come out whenever and we will accept you no matter what. So, all right, well, thanks for the help and let me know, email me if you have any interest.
Thanks, Ani. Hey, Gus, I think you're still muted there. But Ani, the recruitment effort, oh my gosh, I have about 12 different church jobs I'd like to get you helping with. Thank you so much for that, and Christopher, your introduction too. But Gus, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Annie, you'll have to be the spokesperson for a lot of other efforts that we have around town and at UU. I mean, I was ready to sign my savings over to you, you know. Yeah, you know, Annie brings up the important point that a vital part of this success of this organization is getting the volunteers to help us out. And like Ani was suggesting, you know, every little bit helps. Even though you have a little time here and there, there's always something to do. We can always find something for you to do. You know, one of the things I really love about Revolutionary Earth is that it really gives back to the community. You know, one of our core values is how we build community and with each other, and Revolutionary Earth does that. You know, it transforms charity to empowering others. You know, we give food out, but then we empower others to grow food for themselves, and not only just ordinary food, but organic food. And you know, that this kind of food also fights against, of course, food inequality, but chronic conditions like obesity and hypertension and diabetes and heart attacks. It's healthy food. It enlightens the paradigm of producing more and just storing less in the world. It protects farmers to create a collective urban farm in Rochester that feeds the community and reduces the demand for large-scale industrial farm products. That's huge. I mean, it's nice that we have the grocery stores, but a lot of the grocery stores, if you go to their organic section, you know, it's a very small section, and all the other produce has chemicals and GMOs, and it's not good for the body and also for our environment. It's fun too. I mean, to just go out there and see all the different vegetables and to get into the earth and what, you know, watch the little buds start growing, and when the fruit starts growing, it's just so exciting. And I love that. And then it helps you to set up effective gardens of combining different vegetables together and flowers so that it'll deter critters like rabbits, deer, bugs, and things like that. A very big educational piece. It's connecting also our community in sharing food with others people's lives. I mean, you know, one of the things I hope that we will do at UU, if we also, especially if we move to a bigger building of a church, I hope we have a room to push this forward so that we can invite community people to learn all the great points of this organization, and also so that they can also teach it to continuing others in the community to adapt this wonderful goals that we have. Let's see, and you know, to know that my invested time is helping others' education, to be interdependent and joyful, and also appreciate the beauty of all of our environment is just tremendous. And I like this gardening too, because you can save seeds because it's all organic for future crops. Oh my gosh, you know, you don't have to keep buying seeds, and you can learn about companion planting that harmlessly keeps critters and bugs away. You know, you don't have to use any chemicals like was mentioned. And it, you know, I like this a lot too, because you can teach children at a very young age several things: how vegetables are very tasty when they're organic, and how to eat healthily for their entire lives. And it teaches them to become concerned about the soil, the air, the water, and make much better decisions about their environment and health. And this is our future. And it's not only young people, but older people too. With my piece, I am going to be introducing square foot gardening in building the little gardens. And this is an extension from Revolutionary Earth, where if people don't want to have a big yard of Revolutionary Earth, they can use these small square foot gardens to their use. It's very inexpensive, and to build it is very, very, very easy. I have to thank Peter Edel from our church, because he will be showing me how to build all these pieces of square foot gardening well, so that I can educate and use this education for next year's in reaching out to the larger community. Let's see what else. And also the square foot gardening, it can, it also again has an educational piece for very young children all the way up to the elderly. And I think this is a real plus. As you know, education is really a key piece to our lives in learning how to move forward. We can even use square foot gardens for people who are physically challenged. If they can't walk, or if they're in wheelchairs, there's a way to build square foots for them as well. So a lot of good things, and one of the best things I like about Rachel and Chris when they started this is their values and their love for what they do. It is deeply rooted in our UU values, where we can heal ourselves within ourselves, is connected to the environment, and making this future world for our children and grandchildren and theirs as well. So I hope you all will really consider to contributing to them. I appreciate also UU's help in helping me store our square foot gardens, and also will be helping me with my seed starters. I've already started some, so I'm so excited. But I hope that we can bring this program in years to come. And I know if Ani's with us and if UU's behind us, we will really reach out to many people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gus. I appreciate all of you speaking tonight, Christopher and Ani and Gus. What I love about this organization, and others like it too, but it's at the intersection. It is a perfect intersection of our mission statement as a congregation to nurture spiritual growth and practice justice. So looking at environmental spirituality and service to the community, a sense of compassion and connection, that it nurtures the self and the soil and the community as well. It's a beautiful model. So there are a couple questions in chat, and Christopher, you probably saw those. So I don't know if you want to reply. There's one about if your yard faces north. I think you maybe responded to the others about grant funding and wages and all that. But if you want to respond to those, feel free.
Oh, I suppose I'd have to see your yard to know how much sun it gets, and I'll be honest, I'm not much of a gardener. I'm just the organizer. So we've been very fortunate to have lots of very knowledgeable people who have lots and lots of gardening experience, including this year having a partnership with the Master Gardener, the Olmsted County Extension Master Gardeners, which we're of course very grateful for. Yeah, I'm just a guy that I was an organizer and a church planter in my 20s. I planted a anarchist, communist, Christian communal movement in Minneapolis when I was in my 20s, and then I moved on to be a professor. So I kind of do those two things with this organization, and when somebody tells me why the eggplants are dying, I believe them. So
Yeah, and just going off that, can I say something real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think, I don't know if this is what someone is thinking right now, but especially when I started gardening, this is what I was thinking. Do you need experience? And I just want to answer that real quick. So I don't know if that's in your minds right now, but it was definitely in mine when I was like, oh, I'm gonna be gardening at some place that I don't know, and what am I gonna be doing with this shovel? So basically, I will answer that question, and the answer is no. You do not need any experience whatsoever. You don't even have to know how to work a shovel, or, well, that's kind of obvious. How to plant something, how far down, for example, because I don't know. But there will be people at the events, and you will have enough direction for anyone who doesn't know a thing about gardening, that you will be just fine. But if you do know stuff about gardening, and let's just say you're a master gardener and know a ton about gardening, and you want to help us, we also have master gardeners that come out and help our lead farmers do their jobs and work with the volunteers to tell us what to do, how many volunteers we need. So, if you're really experienced, you're a master gardener, you're like, hey, I'm master gardener, I know a lot about this stuff and I have some time, well, let us know, because we will appreciate your help. So I just want to throw that out there, that you don't need any experience. And that's why I'm reaching out to people who, I know they don't have any experience, but they would love to help because they have the same values. So.
Thanks, Ani. We're right at 7:15, so at the end of our time, but just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any questions either in the chat, or if there's anyone else wanting to ask something quick as we end here.
Could I ask something quick?
Please, Pat.
And I was in the process of cooking, so I didn't exactly see your handout that you had. But why do you have the term environmental justice? I mean, I'm not sure I understand what that means.
I'm sorry, I was reading and trying to listen at the same time, and my wife tells me just never try and multitask.
I'll repeat it real quick. So environmental justice, what does it mean?
What does environmental justice mean? I like to define environmental justice by what I guess somewhat negatively, by saying, what does climate destruction do? What is the character of climate destruction? Climate destruction is racist and classist. It is the most brutal. It is the essence of the brutality of our nature, is as human beings and how we treat each other. It is violent, and it is, as one member of the United Nations has said, we are signing a global suicide pact with climate change. And so, what does environmental justice look like? To me, that looks like on the community level, which is where I'm working. That to me, it looks like restoring relationships between people through the act of restoring a right relationship with the earth. And so you can't separate those two from each other. They have to really go together, because climate destruction is about winners and losers in the short term. In the long term, it's about all of us losing. In fact, I would say, I mean, I hate to get too intense, but it's not a suicide pact. It's a murder-suicide pact. The rich are going to murder the poor. and then the wealthy people and organizations and corporations in this world will kill themselves. Now we can stop that. I believe we can. There may still be time, but that to me is what environmental justice means: is confronting that head on and refusing to be murdered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Thanks, Pat. That's a great question, and a helpful framing and answer too. And the thing that I really appreciate about your answer was that sense of relates to our principle of the interdependent web of all existence, that we are interdependent one on each other and in relationship to the earth, that it isn't just a human-based interdependence. So how are we living in right relationship with all living things and in sustainable and ethical, compassionate ways? It's lovely. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat here, but I do encourage you, two things I want to note as we end. One is I've invited Christopher or someone to submit a video. We'll be holding a collection as one of our Sunday Justice offerings in a few weeks for Revolutionary Earth. So that's one way to give in addition to doing it individually or volunteering time as well. And if you know folks who are interested in this forum, again, just a reminder, it'll be online within a couple days as well, and you can always contact the office if you have questions. Thank you, Christopher and Ani and Gus. Inspirational and thought-provoking things of how we're living in right relationship right here in Rochester. It's great to have you here tonight, and thanks all for joining us. Have a good Wednesday. Revolutionaryearth.org.